Sharing her story tonight, Mashed Potatoes in the Face of Danger. Let me welcome up to the stage, Crystal Uris.
Can I walk around with the microphone?
Yeah, go ahead and unhook it, yep. Pull it, yep, right towards you, there you go.
Mover and a shaker here. So this story is about two things. One is my stepdad, who is one of the strongest, silent, strong types that I know. And the other theme is how do you get back to being fine when things are clearly not fine? And again, the fire in that comic strip just brings it all back to life. And whenever someone says the phrase, "I remember where I was on that day," it's the first thing you think of. 9/11. In today's day and age. So some background information. I am the daughter of two military men. No, they were not together. That would have been progressive for that time. My dad was Air Force for 15 years and my stepdad was Navy for 23 years. They both served our country with honor, and I'm so proud of them and to be their daughter and to have made a complete circle around the U.S. But during 9/11, we were stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And if you don't know military jargon, that was the third largest deploying military base in the country at that time. And our specialty was we could deploy directly from ground into water, so we didn't need any naval ports or anything like that. Beyond that, number 2 was Norfolk, Virginia, and number 1 was Camp Pendleton, California, and I believe that that is still the number 1 deploying military base. So my stepdad was Navy, but he worked what they call Greenside with the Marine Corps. Camp Lejeune was a Marine Corps military base, which I lived on, and let me tell you, that is a totally different culture. 2001, I was 21 years old, living at home with mom and dad because I was able to get the first part of my free education, and I wish I would have understood how important that was at that time. So there I was. I was working and helping my parents raise my younger siblings, and I was a nanny for my dad's chief in his unit. My stepdad was a corpsman in the Navy. He was an independent duty corpsman, so he was sort of akin to a physician's assistant. And so for his unit, he worked out of a BAS, or a battalion aid station. And it was run by his chief, and I was a nanny for the kids of his chief. So on that morning, I was driving to work, and the radio announcer cuts into a really good song, and I have karaoke in my car every morning on the way to work. Still do, true story. And I just remember being just confused, and all of a sudden the announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have really tragic news that we'll keep you up to date on, but a plane has just flown into the World Trade Center, one of the towers of the World Trade Center." And I thought, oh my gosh, that's just a horrible accident. My mind just immediately jumped to accident. And it wasn't even 5 minutes later that he broke in again. And this part I remember vividly. Ladies and gentlemen, our country is under attack. A second plane has just slammed into the second tower of the World Trade Center. And at that moment, my heart started pounding. I was not fine. And I floored it to work, because I knew that the chief that I worked for, he would have been working out at that time and then getting ready to go to work. So I showed up and I started banging on his door as loud as I can and ringing the doorbell at the same time. And he comes downstairs and he was just so confused, and I burst through the door as soon as he unlatched it, and I ran upstairs and I said, "You gotta turn the TV on." And he chased me upstairs, and we get to the TV room where his son is playing with his little cars and trucks in front of the TV. And he turned on the remote just in time. Watching that footage, I just had never been so panicked. And probably for different reasons than what most civilians would be panicked for. When you live on a military base, there are certain threat levels that you have to live by and know what to be prepared for, even the families. And at that point, we were at DEFCON 4, and then you downgrade to 3, 2, and 1. So immediately, we were put on DEFCON 3, which is pretty rare. And the last time in history that that had happened was Pearl Harbor. So we're watching this footage, and all of a sudden his phone starts ringing and ringing and ringing. He's the chief of a battalion aid station. He's got hundreds of men under his care. And all of a sudden, these hundreds of men are calling. What do you want us to do? So at DEFCON 3, you have to be ready to deploy in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So he called into his command, and they said, you have 30 minutes to get yourself and your family on base, or you will be locked down, cut off from your command. So he looked at me and he said, get my son ready, go pick my daughter up from school, take her to your house on base, and we'll meet you whenever we get word. And that was the biggest frenzy. I'd never seen so many people make a run on banks, make a run at grocery stores, just run. They were just running. Some of them were just running nowhere. And we get on base, and I take the little boy Spencer to my house, and his sister Ailey, and then we just started waiting, and waiting. Every time you heard the neighbor's door slam, you'd run outside. What have you heard? What have you heard? Neighbors houses going, I can't find my family member. I can't get a hold of them. One of our neighbors, her brother was in the Pentagon. And he had just left that wing. And we didn't hear from him for 3 days. And the thing that sticks out in my mind is during that first week, beside everybody's door, you could see distinctive piles of readiness. The sea bag, the flak jacket, the helmet, and there are always boots right on the front porch. And that pile stayed there for quite a long time. Because if they downgraded to DEFCON 2, that was out the door. So that's what we did for the first week. We waited. We ran to each other's houses. We waited for news. And the channel was just all news all the time. It wouldn't stop. It would constantly go. And this was before smartphones. Could you imagine what it was now? So we're just constantly waiting. And my stepdad, through all of this, not once did he run. Not once did he panic. He came home, he got his pile together, and he went to work. But the rest of us, we were not fine. You can train all your life as a military member and be ready for these things. Both of my dads were ready all the time, but that doesn't mean the families are ready. And it doesn't mean that they're ready to let go at any given moment. Even when they go into the training field for 2 weeks, it's hard to let them go. But he was ready. So we go through the first week of just waiting and pins and needles, and nobody went to work, and there were no kids in school, and the base was locked down, and every time you went off base, if they allowed it, you came back to a station of men carrying guns, and they had dogs, and they would rip your vehicle apart every single time. My parents had a purple tinted window conversion van. It took us 30 minutes to get through that checkpoint every single time. So we get through that week, and I remember President Bush coming on and saying, okay, we need to breathe again. The essence of his message was, we need to keep being Americans. We need to go to work. We need to go to school. We need to go to the grocery store. We need to take care of each other. It's time to go back to work. And so that night after the announcement, Mom makes a full meal. She makes meatloaf and mashed potatoes and salad and rolls. And oh, I love rolls. And I think of all the kids, I was the one that was panicking the most because I was 21, I was eligible for service, and I was getting recruiter phone calls left and right. And so we sit down to supper, and Mom's serving up, and Dad's trying to make small talk, and I said, What are we doing? Why did you turn the TV off? We need to know what's going on. And Papa goes, I know what's going on. I said, but we need to know more. And he goes, no, we're gonna have supper. And as I start working up, I just start crying, and I'm ready to throw something, and I got up and I started pacing. And my stepdad, in his infinite wisdom, picked up a big spoonful of mashed potatoes and lobbed it at my face. Stopped me dead in my tracks. Landed in the middle of my forehead, and here I am. I'm like, and I just, cannot compute, what? And everybody just paused. Everybody stopped. And there was a big intake of air as I reached up and grabbed what I could off my face. And I looked at him, and he winked at me, and I threw it right back at him. And of course, my two younger sisters, they're, 5 and 10 years younger than me. Parents had a built-in babysitter, just saying. That's just how it works. So my sister then decides to pick up her scoop of corn. I think Mom had corn. There was a vegetable that was thrown about there somewhere. And she throws it at Mom. Now, my mom is the most proprietary woman on the planet. She does not like cleaning food out of blinds. And so food fights were absolutely forbidden in my family. And so when Jill picked up those peas and threw them at her mother, my mom just sat there. And then she picked up a scoop of mashed potatoes and she threw them at Jill. And all of a sudden, there is an all-out food fight in our house. Nothing was eaten. Everything was thrown. And whatever weapon you could use, you could turn your napkin into a slingshot, you could use your fork and your spoon, and the culmination of these events ended up in, my mom still served dessert through all of that. I don't know why she did, but it was a chocolate cake. And my sister got up to go to the bathroom real quick through the haze of potatoes in her eyelashes, and I took her cake and I sat it on her seat. And she sat down, I just remember her like flopping. But she sat there and she didn't move. She says, Mom, can I have another piece of cake? After that, we were fine. There was always this sense, and there still is, that nothing will ever be the same again. I will forever be marked by that time as anyone else will who's ever seen any of those images. And the one person that knew everyone was going through something so extreme decided to do something so extremely opposite and out of character for his demeanor and against the rules of my mother's household. He used it as a way to just bring me back and say, we're okay. I know what's going on. I know what to do. Now, those piles of readiness gear didn't go away for months, but they did collect dust. And eventually they did get put away. I don't think we ever got down to DEFCON 2. I don't remember that, but I know we got down to 3. And so at any time, living with that, okay, you've got 15 minutes and you're gone, that was hard. But it took a big old scoop of mashed potatoes to make everything fine. Thank you.